What's up, Math Department? This is Mr. Cherry coming to do a quick video meeting slash professional development because there are certain things that administrators are going to be coming around looking at, as well as there are practices that we as teachers should be doing to better ourselves and better our craft. So today, for a quick second, we'll be talking about the tortoise and the hare, and the reason why that is related to what we're talking about is it talks about starting and finishing in the classroom. Now, effective teaching starts as soon as students enter the room. And here at the high school, one thing that we all do in the math department is that we have what's called a warm-up, and we also have what's called the question of the day. Now, the warm-up and the question of the day are what's called formative assessment, meaning it is something that we're going to use to provide ongoing feedback to our students. The formative assessment is really designed to improve student learning and teaching. We as teachers use the formative assessment to make decisions on what should we be teaching next, what things we need to focus on. Are there any common errors that all the students are making that we need to address? The formative assessment is designed to be kind of comfortable for the students, where they feel free, where they feel comfortable in getting answers correct or incorrect. We also use the formative assessment to recognize struggling students. So while we are looking at the formative assessments, we'll instantly be able to tell whether a student knows material or doesn't know the material. Now, the formative assessment, it's good to tell students why warm-ups are so important. They are important because that allows us as teachers to know whether or not you know the information, which will in turn be able to help us as teachers better assist you in the classroom. Now, with the formative assessment, because it's supposed to be kind of comfortable for the students to do and really allow them to be successful, and they're also supposed to show us what students know and what they don't know. If we are going to use this formative assessment as a quiz or a graded assignment, we need to really clearly state that to the students so they know what to be prepared for. Sometimes they can get confused if they don't know beforehand a warm-up is used as basically whether they know the information or not, and then the next day we come in and try to take it for a quiz grade. So I'm not saying that it's not good to do. All I'm saying is that let's warn the students so they can get get their mind right. If we're going to really take it for a grade, whether and use it to know whether or not they know the information or they don't know the information. Now, monitor on the run. Basically, what this is when the student's doing the warm-up, we're walking around always monitoring and assessing. We're always monitoring and assessing. If we see a student doing something wrong, we can correct them right then. If we see them going the wrong way, we can correct them right then. And also, as we look here, we see that most classrooms here at the high school in the math department have what's called the inner loop. And what the inner loop does, it allows us to get around to all of the students. Get from the left side of the classroom to the right side of the classroom in a nice, organized kind of way. This is good for the students because when used correctly, they'll understand that if they have a classroom, not they have a classroom, but they have a question, we will get around to them when we walk back around the inner loop. So, for example, if I'm right here and I answer this student's question, I'm walking around answering questions, walking around answering questions, walking around answering questions. This student now knows sooner or later I'm gonna come back around. So until then, they can keep working. They don't necessarily have to raise their hand and stop and wait for me. They know that sooner or later we'll be coming back around to answering that question. Also, with those formative assessments, it's good to Keep it to about 10 minutes, and allow students really to collaborate on this. Imagine having 20 teachers in the classroom, all right? 20 teachers in the classroom. Every classroom is going to be successful. So you convey that to the class as, when you're doing your warm-up or your formative assessment, all right, especially with the warm-up, don't cheat. Cheating isn't helping anyone, all right? Cheating isn't helping anyone at all. All right, collaborate. You can ask your partner, ask your team questions that, again, be able to help you. The goal is for them to be able to do it on their own. Again, the goal is for every student should know that the goal is for them to be able to get a problem on their own and be successful with their problem. Now, different questioning techniques. All right, close-ended questions. I learned this in marketing when I was a telemarketer. Questions where people can say yes, no, or not even answer. All right, so for example, let's stay away from, does everyone understand? Are there any questions? Give me some questions. All right, all of these have, I like to call it a dead-end answer, meaning once you answer, once the student answers, there's really nothing else after that that we can say. So, are there any questions? No. All right. It's always good to remember that students will tell us what they want us to hear. All right. They want us to feel good about ourselves. They want us to feel like, hey, we did a great job teaching. So let's tell the teacher, yeah, we understand. All right. We have to ask open-ended questions. Really pull the information out to students so that we can tell whether they know it or not. If they can say it and they can explain it, then they know it. Let's ask questions like, with this problem, what would be confusing about this problem to another student? What's a way that a teacher could re-ask this question? What is the easiest aspect of this question? What's the hardest aspect of this question? You really want to keep asking question after question after question. If I change the measurements, what will happen? If we change this number to 5, what will happen? If you had to explain this to someone else, what would you say? If you had to explain this to someone, what would the second thing you say? All right. So really, when you're questioning, just pull questions, pull questions, pull questions. You can get 6, 7 questions out of one question that's on your warm-up or any type of assessment. So really, you want to don't rely on the students to tell you whether they know or understand or not. Let's try to decide what they know through questioning techniques. All right, here's a sample warm-up that we have. All right, different questioning techniques could be, what kind of shape is this? How do you know it's that kind of shape? If they had one more side, what kind of shape would it be? All right, what's specific to a hexagon? All right, would the interior or exterior angles change if I made it bigger? If I made it smaller? Different, just any type of question that you can ask to see whether the student knows the material or not. All right. Make sure you question with a purpose. Watch how you question specific people. All right. Because again, they may be coming off cold. All right. So a good way to ask a person is, okay, say, hey, Chris, I'm asking Karen right now this question. You got the next question. So just follow along with me. Ask the entire class, hey class, on the count of 3, tell me the answer. 1, 2, 3. Call on groups. All right, group 1, what's the answer? Group 2, what's the answer? Group 3, what's the answer? All right. Also, you don't necessarily have to ask what's the answer all the time. You can say, what's the next step? What's the next thing to do? How you know what's the next thing to do? What was the clue for it to be the next thing to do? All right. So you necessarily don't have to ask answers, but you can ask what's the process. Because again, what we want the students to do is we want to question them in a way that they'll be able to, by themselves, ask the questions in their brain, which will lead them to the answer. All right. Again, all our questioning should be for them to be able to work independently, and we're really teaching them how to talk to themselves. So next time you're questioning your students, all right, are the questions that you're asking, could I write those down Could we write those down and solve another question that's just like it? All right, here's a simple question of the day. All right, I would, me personally, I would say, all right, students, what this at the end of the period, this is what we'll be able to do. All right, this is a question you should be able to answer at the end of the period. All right, you want to pull from their previous knowledge. All right, students, what kind of shape is this? How do you know it's that kind of shape? All right, what else do you see on this picture? What piece of information do we need to know to answer this question? How do you think that's going to relate to each other? How does this picture differ from the other type of problems we've done before? What is it about this picture that you may be confused about? All right. When the students answer these questions, it'll give us an idea on how to explain it or how to teach it. It also allows for like some great classroom discussions. Some students you'll have when you really dwell into the when you really go into the question of the day. Even though they're supposed to be able to answer at the end of the day, sometimes they'll be able to answer before just based on the questions and how you ask those questions at the beginning of the class. All right, ending versus closing. All right, ending class is just class, put your calculators up, time to go. All right, we want to work on closing our class. All right, meaning it's a quick review at the end of class, which is another formative assessment that allows us to know whether the students know exactly what we intended for them to know. All right, that'll in turn help us plan for the next day. Some type of closing techniques is the question of the day. All right, pull the question of the day back out. They answer the question of the day while we're walking around, seeing what they're doing, seeing if there's a common mistake, seeing if everybody is getting it, seeing if they applied when we taught them during class. You can do what I like to call a whip around. All right, it's pretty much after the question of the day, after all the students put their calculators up. You're at the board and you're just solving questions. You know, for example, hey everybody, what kind of shape is that? All right, it's a triangle. All right, what's the different ways to solve a triangle? A right triangle. All right, they would say, all right, Pythagorean theorem. All right, put Pythagorean theorem. All right, and trig up there. All right, so team 3, what would make this a trig problem? If it had an angle. All right, team 2, what would make it a Pythagorean theorem problem? If it had 2 sides. All right, if it had 2 sides. All right, the questions on the whip around can be questions that have to do with the topic you're doing or not. It could be previous questions. You know, for example, team 1, tell me what does converse mean? All right, team 2, tell me what contrapositive mean? All right, team 3, tell me what inverse mean? Tell me what inverse is. All right, team 4, give me a conditional statement. All right, and you're doing all of this at the end of class to take up time so the students just don't leave. All right, so the students just don't leave. All right, so the goals for the week is this. All right, choose your warm up carefully, walk around, assess the students. All right, don't sit down, get up, create a sense of urgency, a sense of importance. You should always feel like they're looking over your shoulder. All right, the second goal is to really work on the questioning techniques. Pull those questions, pull those answers out of the students. The third, inform students of the purpose for the day. At the end of the day, students, you will know how to blank. All right. Also, another goal for the week, close up your class tight with the whip around, the question of the day. All right. And, you know, let's really close class up good. All right. So I hope this helped out a little bit. Take this video, save it, so we can always go back and revisit it later. And have a great weekend.